Hey, what is up, disc golfers? Today on Iceberg TV, we're going to check out two fairway drivers from Discraft that a lot of you guys probably have never seen before. We have the Discraft XL and the Discraft XS. Now, the XS was actually thrown for the distance world record all the way back in 2001. A player threw this disc over 700 feet. So with that being said, I had to get one for myself. I had to try it out. I got this really cool Z Plastic XS and then an Elite Z Plastic XL. We'll take a quick look at the side profiles here. The XL here feels very similar to an FD. So if you're an FD thrower who now throws Discraft, would highly recommend checking out an XL. To me, feels very similar to an FD. Now this XS is going to be definitely more on the stable side. Feels like a T-bird that doesn't have the nose bead, but it does have a small micro bead right here. So I'm curious to see how that's exactly going to affect the stability. They're both coming in that 7/8 speed slot. Anyway, I guess I have one more thing for you guys. We've got the Disc Raptor here today. The ground is soaking wet, so we'll get to throw these guys. I've not thrown these discs much, and then we'll get to dry them off with the old Disc Raptor. So pretty cool. All right, let's go XL and then XS. That is a beaut. It's the first throw of the day. That felt really, really good. That disc flew well too. Ooh. All right, that XS has the flight numbers of an 8.4 and 8.503. Definitely a lot straighter than I expected, but again, that's not a bad thing. It's just didn't fly exactly how I expected it to fly. The reason I wanted to make this video is because I feel like Discraft has an amazing lineup, but I feel like as far as their fairway drivers go, I don't necessarily feel like the Discraft fairway lineup is up to par compared to Innova. Discmania's fairway lineup starting to get a lot better. Trilogy probably has the best fairway lineup in the game. A lot of other brands have, I feel like, more popular fairway drivers, but I also feel like Discraft has a lot of discontinued and older molds that came out before disc golf was super popular. So I wanted to put you guys on to some Discraft fairways that I actually think are really good that you guys might be interested in adding to your bag. All right, we'll give this Disc Raptor a go real quick. This thing is already covered in mud and dirt, so we'll give this Disc Raptor a try. It's got all these mini microfiber kind of little spindles in there. And then inside, behind the spindles, is like artificial grass turf. I'm assuming that's like a place for the dirt to sort of collect and sort of pull the disc, the dirt and the water off of the disc. I mean, it seems to be working pretty effectively. All right, we'll go XL and then XS. It's a really great flyer. I love that Elite Z Plastic. All right, let's see. Put this on a similar launch angle here. Oh. The XL is an absolute beaut of a flyer. If you feel like the Cicada is a bit too flippy for you, but maybe something like the Stalker is a bit too stable, would 100% recommend trying out an XL. That XS definitely has that T-bird-esque feel. Maybe I'm not releasing it very well, but it's supposed to be a 0.3. It's definitely not flying like a 0.3. I think the flight numbers are getting in my head just a little bit. So I'm going to throw it with a little bit more hyzer angle, with a little bit higher launch angle, and see if it'll pick up and turn a little bit. But right now I'm absolutely loving the XL. That thing is such a nice flight. All right, let's give this XS a little bit more hyzer. I got to trust this thing to actually pick up and turn a little bit. All right. It just needs, you just got to trust it nose down with a nice slightly upward launch angle. Both of these discs fly like absolute beauts, to be honest. But I particularly like the XL more than the XS. It has that familiar FD-esque feel that I'm really comfortable with. Doesn't feel quite as understable in hand as something like a Leopard, but it has that nice sort of barely wants to pop up and go straight. You can trust it on slight hyzer, nose down with a good launch angle, and just wants to pick up, go mostly straight, and have a good consistent fade. But overall, both discs flying super well. And Discraft has so many old molds that you just don't see much anymore. And I think eventually we'll get to the point where, you know, the team Discraft is so big that they start running out of molds and you can't have 25 players on the team with signature zones and buzzes. Eventually they'll have to dig deeper and start bringing out the XL, the XS, the Express. Particularly another disc that's really awesome is the Cyclone. And I actually had a conversation with Ezra Aderhold about this. I feel like him and Brody, they came out with it, It's Always a Passion. I felt like they could have come out with a Signature Series Cyclone instead and had something that was a little bit more their own instead of piggybacking off of one of Page molds. The Cyclone is very similar and is a better disc in my opinion. And Ezra said that he heard the Cyclone was good, but he's never really had an opportunity to throw it too much. But yeah, between the XL, the XS, the Cyclone, the Talon, Discraft has a really strong fairway driver lineup that you guys probably haven't heard of or thrown a lot of their molds. Also, this Disc Raptor is doing pretty well. The discs are really wet after I throw, and this thing seems to be drying them off pretty well. The only time a normal towel fails me is if it's actively raining very hard. So that's really the situation where I'm most curious to see if this performs better than a towel. Because right now I could just be using a towel and it would be doing the exact same thing. So where I'm curious, does this outperform a towel when you're playing out in the pouring rain? So I'll have to get out and test this thing in like the actual pouring rain to see if it works better and lasts longer than a towel. So I'll play a full round in the rain and use only this to dry everything off and see if it actually outperforms the towel out on the course in the rain. We'll give both discs a throw 2 more times, one time down, one time back. XS, trust it with a little bit of hyzer, a little bit of launch angle. That disc is awesome. That is a really solid flyer. I really think like the pros would love that flight. I think for pro arm speed, they can put it up nose down with a bit of launch angle and that thing is just gonna hold the line forever, but then still have the integrity to come back at the end. And again, the Cicada is probably too flippy. The Undertaker's a bit too fast for a lot of fairway driver type shots. I feel like that XS is right in the sweet spot for a player like Ezra Aderhold. Something like that could totally replace his Passion and have a signature mold that nobody else has. All right, same thing. Let's try the XL. They fly very similar. The XS was supposed to be more stable, but it's definitely not. The XL has the flight numbers of a -2 turn and a 1 fade. The XS is a 0 turn and a 3 fade, but they're basically flying the exact same. Now, I'm not on Team Discraft, and I don't fully know how it works, obviously. But I think if I was on Team Discraft, I would try and find a old, out-of-production mold to bring back in new plastic, like something like an Elite Z Talon, Elite Z Reaper. If I had something like that as my signature disc, I feel like you would make a lot more money making a disc like that popular, because then the only way to go and get that disc would be to buy your signature disc. And I just feel like that's a really good business model, as long as you have the tournament performance or social media presence to properly promote it and make the disc look really good. I just feel like if I was on Team Discraft, I would really be throwing every out of production mold, trying to find that one mold that I could, bring back and rebrand as my own. I just don't know how many signature series buzzes and zones they can come out with before people just stop buying them. Like, we've got to be getting to that breaking point. Like, I'd be so much more likely to buy a Tour Series XS. It doesn't even matter what pro it is. I'd be more interested in that all day long than another zone. Everybody who likes Discraft and likes zones already has 50 zones. So you might as well come out with something like cool and unique and fun and exciting. I feel like that's got to be a better way to sell signature discs and get more support, is to come out with a disc that's actually exciting. But maybe I'm in the minority there. All right, last throw with the XS. I mean, that is an absolute beaut of a disc. That's definitely going to go into my bag. That disc flies really great. This one's awesome too, though. Might bag both of them temporarily. I mean, look at that flight. Those are two absolutely gorgeous molds. Someone needs to monetize on these older molds, because I feel like they're going to make a killing if they come out with one of these two molds, or again, the Reaper, the Talon, any of these other older, out of production, really great molds that they could easily revive. It would be such a good opportunity for a new Discraft player. Again, that's just my opinion. Maybe they can make more money on zones and buzzes because they probably just have a billion unstamped ones sort of ready to stamp with someone's signature artwork and just get them on the shelves right away. Again, I'm not entirely sure how the process works, but I do think it would be so fun to get new and exciting, you know, old molds in new plastics, or even bring back old plastics. Like if someone came out with a proper Elite Z Wasp, a proper Elite Z Buzz, Reaper, Talon, I'm buying at least 2 or 3 of those. And I very rarely buy discs nowadays, but if they started coming out with things that were a bit more interesting, I'd be a heck of a lot more interested and excited to go out and, you know, purchase these discs. But they just keep coming out with buzzes, zones, meteors, vultures, undertakers. It's always the same stuff year in and year out. And I'm sure if it's stale for me, then that must be stale for you guys too. Well, all right, guys, I'm actually pleasantly surprised with the flight, particularly of the XS. It took me a few throws to figure it out, but it's one of those discs I can trust it nose down, basically full power, slight hyzer, nice little few degree launch angle, and it's just gonna pick up and fly perfectly. And if I throw it really hard, it's gonna turn for a good ways, but then still be consistent enough to fade at the end. It's got that really reliable stability, nice little tiny bit of dome. And then right alongside it, we've got something with a little bit less dome, a little bit more shallow in hand. The XL is also another winner. Let me know in the comments below, do you guys bag either of these discs? Have you ever heard of either of these discs? Because I think they're both winners from Discraft, and you just don't see them anymore. I'd love to see Discraft pros trying out some of these out of production discs and see if we can't revive some of these old and amazing molds. Anyway, you guys are watching Iceberg TV. I'll see you guys in the next video, and take care.